This past weekend, I've participated in my first Fusion World digital client tournament. And as the Gohan stan that I am, I figured it was the perfect opportunity to give it a first go. As far as why I took Gohan, I do want to get a little bit more tournament experience with the deck before I decide what I'm going to be taking in the regionals over in May. It is only one tournament, but getting a sense of how the deck does in tournament play versus other people and other decks that kind of know what's going on, as opposed to the latter experience, is something that I value a lot, especially since I had my concerns with Gohan in as far as the widespread meta goes. Naturally, if I play mirrors every single match, I will be in a position where I feel advantage off the back of my leader being a 35k if I'm facing against Broly's or Androids or anything like that. However, I do think Gohan has some few weaknesses against go wide strategies, and that is actually something that will be very apparent in this tournament. When it comes to the deck, I leaned in on the mirror matches as the kind of thing I want to focus on because I just really didn't want to lose to the RNG of not seeing my ramp or not seeing my top end. So for the most part, this is a very standard Gohan list, very similar to the things that you guys have seen me play in the past. We're playing all of the cantrips, all of the cards that search up for our stuff. We're playing 3 Trunks because I did expect a decent amount of yellow in this tournament. We're running the 4 Vegetas. I did tech in the 1 Goku just to give me an additional ramp on 4, just to make sure that we're able to see it consistently. Of course, we're running the 4 Selkus, running 4 of the Gohans that pop on board, super good. Turtles is a card I don't love, but can help out in terms of allowing you to apply pressure while also ramping, which is something that Selku doesn't really do, and has his utility in the mirror. Also in the mirror, we have Android 16 just as a 1-up to give us a defensive way to be able to get the life gain Gohan, extend ourselves to being able to see another turn. In terms of our top end, we do still run 2 of the double strikers, 3 life Hans, 2 secret rares, and then 4 super combos, of course, and 4 Brolys. And this is where I don't love running 4 Brolys. I find myself in a position where I have a lot of zero combo in my hand, especially when you account for sometimes drawing into Big Bang, into Gigantic Meteors, into Destructive Strengths that you cannot use until you're into the late game. So your hand ends up way more dead, but unfortunately when it comes to the mirror, and you guys will see this in our replays, the amount of Brolys you see correlates very highly to the amount of times you win in the mirror. So unfortunately, it's just a concession I had to make there. I do think in a world where we see less mirrors, I would love to cut down on Brolys. Our first match is the Gohan mirror, and this is what I was teching for. I expected a lot of people to just decide to go play on green, and as such is the reason why we teched in to making sure our mirror gameplay is good. See more Brolys, see our ramp, and hopefully we can control the board from there. In terms of this opening hand, I have no complaints. Obviously, we have the 2 Brolys, we've got the Destructive Strength, so we have our curve early. At least we do still need to find ourselves a Vegeta, we still need to find ourselves a Selku potentially, but nevertheless, we've got the Big Bang attack for the opposing Selku, so we do have a good lineup, and it's all about hopefully finding the curve that gets us there over the next couple of turns. And nevertheless, feeling good, we're going first. I don't really particularly mind going first or second in this matchup. It's really just, do we see our early cantrips to be able to dig for our ramp? We have our ramp in hand, so it's not terrible. We have some combo power here with the Trunks, but it doesn't really do much in this matchup. So we'll go ahead and charge it. And now I'm feeling a little bit iffy. I find a lot of pieces that I'm really enjoying. I love Life Han in the mirror. I love Android 16 in the mirror. I love Broly, but we still need our ramp on turn 4, on turn 5. Nevertheless, Destructive Strength is the lineup for our next turn. And here I do charge the cantrip because it would be nice to use the cantrip, but I pay so much more value on the ability to be able to use the life Hans, to be able to go into A16. So we're just going to get rid of the cantrip and hopefully it doesn't bite us in the butt. Drawing into Android 17 and 18, which is rough. Really hoping that we can dig ourselves into finding the ramp, because if we're behind on ramp, we don't get there. But of course, we top deck the Vegeta because why wouldn't we? So fantastic position here. And we have 4 Brolys. So if it ever comes down to the Broly Wars, which it often does, we are super ahead in that position. Obviously, let's get rid of some combo power from our opponent's board. So let's clear that and then pass turn. And we're in a cozy position now. We're going up to 7. And we have some ability now to kind of make things our own, especially now that we're awakened. Big deal. And here they play a Vegeta instead of a Selku, which allows us more opportunity to be able to diverge our gameplay as opposed to having to go for, Selku into something else. Instead, here we can kind of push our advantage instead, which is huge. So here we're just going to swing, get ourselves an additional draw, and this is where we're going to start pressuring the opposing Gohan player, see if we can force them to use their ability or not. Get rid of combo power, might as well. Keep on applying pressure now. It's just pressure, pressure, pressure. If we can maintain a stronger board presence, we feel really good. We're awakened. We use the Life Han. It's a 35k swing, which is a huge swing. Being at 5 life gives us such a better buffer, especially when we're awakened, meaning we can still defend big hits, but at the same time, put ourselves in a position to be able to manage the late game a little bit better. Here, our opponent is going to go for board control, and we are lining up to be in the Broly Wars at this point. Here we can see our opponent set goes for Life Hunt, which I feel really confident about. We can protect this Gohan, put us in a really good position to be able to go into the late game, because now we have something on board. We can play our own Broly, so we're super going to defend this. And then it's just, we have a Broly plus another body, which makes it really awkward for our opponent. And we can just do that turn over turn over turn. So when you have just board presence in the way of something else plus Broly, it is so much stronger, because now they need to dedicate time and resources to get rid of the other thing, which means we can just keep applying pressure, forcing cards out of our opponent's hand. And this is where the end game really takes off. When it comes to the mirror match, it is very much never miss a ramp turn. And then once you get to 5-6 energy, can you push out a meaningful boss monster turn over turn over turn to secure your ability to be able to push pressure as well as mitigate your opponent doing their own Broly. All right, here, because we're at 6 cost or over, their secret rare also doesn't do anything. So their only answer to everything we're doing now, especially with the fact that we're at 5 life, is Broly in here, just ignoring the board. I don't mind that at all. That's an additional attacker we get into him. So you know what? We'll defend this one because we can. Being at 4 life means that no matter what our opponent does, especially since we Broly next turn, we're still going to be able to apply pressure. And now we're just dwindling down their resources. I'm not concerned. There's almost no play that they can make that will lose me the game, going from 4 to 0. So very comfortable position here. Swing, play the Broly, get rid of stuff off their board. I do play the Broly first here because I want to utilize my energy with my leader swing while still being able to, you know, force more cards out of their hand. So 35k swing here. And there's little my opponent can do. No matter what they respond with, they cannot make us lose the game. And if it's like not clearing the Brolys, they could play an Android 16, they could play a Life Han, which is annoying, but at the end of the day, we're still going to be able to fight through that no matter what they do. So they do get the gigantic meteor out, but now they're at 6. So I feel incredibly more confident now, because being at 6 energy means that they're going up to 7. We don't have to worry for them Brolying us. We can maintain our board if we want. Here, they're just going to swing to get the draw. And they do play an Android 16, which is annoying, but we have so many attacks at this point that if we force him to use it here, gonna gain the life with the Life Han, but we have another Broly swing, we have our leader swing, we have our Gohan swing, and then we can play the Broly to be able to close out the game, which I think is just more reliable here than going for the double strike, which of course was also an option. But again, against Gohan, I want to go multiple hits instead of one big hit, because that leader ability makes it so much easier for them to defend. But nevertheless, again, even if we don't even get here this turn, we're going to get there the turn after. Our opponent essentially has no way to be able to deal with this board. And unfortunately, this is just kind of what the mirror ends up coming out to, and we win game 1. I'm feeling really good. The mirror match is what I was ready for, and we did exactly what we wanted to. In a lot of matchups, seeing 4 Brolys feels terrible. But in the mirror specifically, just knowing that you can go back to back to back Brolys as long as you don't miss a ramp turn feels incredibly good. Exactly what we're aiming for, and hopefully that pushes through for the later rounds. And if you love these tournament runs, I actually run them live on Twitch, so link to that will be down below. You'll definitely want to check it out. Next up in our round 2, we're up against Frieza, and Frieza can be scary, specifically because if they're on the Ginu package, again, going wide is something that we struggle with. We have the secret rare, which is huge when it comes to restabilizing the board. It might be one of the only things we have going our way in terms of staving off what our opponent is doing. We do have destructive strength, we do have the Goku, so we're guaranteed with the energy marker, which, to be fair, the only time you should go destructive strength on turn 2 with the energy marker is if you're guaranteed to have another ramp the turn after. Because effectively all you're really doing is trading the energy marker for a permanent energy. The first time you do this destructive strength play, you're not actually ramping up in terms of like what gets you to 8 energy the fastest. Either way, we do have the lineup turn afterwards. We would love to see a Vegeta because obviously it helps us control the board even better, but we'll take a Goku if that's the only thing we have. Combo Trunks here. Unfortunately, we're a little bit too late to be able to play the Trunks because it's way more valuable for us to try to hope and turbo into 7 energy to secret rare to be clear things out the board. Here we do see a charge of an Awakener as well as a Golden Frieza, so at least that's one less Golden Frieza we have to deal with. And now we're just going to try to apply pressure, get some combo off the board. At the end of the day, every combo our opponent uses is one less combo that we're going to have to deal with defensively. I don't love the position, though. Obviously, this is a board that's going to attack into us multiple times. Our opponent can now awaken, which is something we really were hoping that they weren't going to be able to do. But nevertheless, they did get in there. They spent some resource clearing our Goku. I'm happy with this. Any attack that we don't have to deal with our leader, much better, especially since our opponent's at 4. But they did charge Meta Cooler, which I think is really funny. Meta Cooler is deceptively good against green because if they constantly have Meta Coolers in hand on KO, they replace themselves. So we could board wipe them and our opponent would still end up potentially with 2-3 attackers depending on how many they play out. Thankfully, instead, I'm much happier with this. They go with the Cooler which means that we can control the board even better. We're not going to be playing Broly anytime soon, so that's okay. And we have the Big Bang attack to get rid of the cooler. So we lined up our plays extremely well here, extremely lucky to be able to get rid of that. I'm very happy with those results. Here, we're going to be swinging, go for 35k if our opponent wants the super combo to protect it. I don't particularly mind. And here we actually just get it out. And now I'm not feeling super cozy, but I feel much better about things in terms of we're still at a high life total. We have the Cell Goku on board, and that makes a huge difference in terms of being able to defend ourselves. So just having that additional free 15k one time, huge deal. Our opponent does go for the death ball here. So now they're down to 4. We know that we're not going to face a Golden Frieza Death Strike. That's fine. And then here is the meta coolers, and that sucks, right? Like this meta cooler, I will say, I just have to stare at it the whole game now. I can't attack into it because the leader restands it, and then if I use my removal abilities to get rid of it, it's just gonna replace itself. So the way that I have to deal with this meta cooler is by forcing cards out of my opponent's hand so that he combos away the other meta coolers in hand, as opposed to us having to deal with, like, you know, follow-up attacks, which is why we got rid of the Niez instead. Just going to keep applying pressure here at this point. We need to start pivoting our game plan to closing out the game, because our opponent being on meta coolers means that we won't be able to control the board forever. We just need to apply pressure, force cards out of our opponent's hand, and hopefully that is enough to get us there. Here we do go into the double cantrips, and we have the option for the Broly next turn if we're able to close out the game there. So obviously I love having the cantrips on board to be able to give us a clean combo to get out of 20k swings. Here our opponent is going to rest the Frieza, and then he does play the double striker, but attacks into it. And I'm so much happier that they're attacking into it than attacking into us, because now I'm in a cozy position where I can take this damage, or, you know, I don't have to deal with the double strike that I likely wasn't going to combo out of. So I feel good about this. We can play the Broly. We can get rid of their double striker here and just get our draws. And I don't necessarily feel the need to go and attack our opponent with this Broly to get them even more cards in hand to deal with us, right? We're still in a suspect position. We don't have a lot of combo power in hand. Our leader ability is kind of the biggest thing we got going for us here. So I'm just going to do my best to make sure we don't take damage, and then hopefully in the later game Broly will be able to deal damage, especially since now without the double strike Frieza, we do have the 30k on board. Here 40k Frieza, I'm okay with this, especially since they're going to go into the Broly. They're going to supernova, but that's fine. They can't keep anything else in rest mode. Hey, you want to put that much work into my Broly? I do not mind. I got so much value out of your hand, but I will protect my 30k, because that 30k will put in a ton of work in terms of pressuring and hopefully closing out the game. Now here we go with Selku, because again, just having that free defense is something I value a lot. We could have been in a position to secret rare, but I didn't feel like we needed it, especially since we did draw into the Big Bang attack as well. So we're just stuck facing the 40k Frieza here, and hopefully we can close out the game with the gigantic meteor we have in hand. I was hoping to draw into some combo power. We did not draw into combo power, unfortunately. We will go to 40. 40 does stave off our opponent having the opportunity to super combo themselves out of this attack. And then here, hopefully gigantic meteor get us there. If not, at the very least, it forces our opponent to have to combo essentially near everything they have, and we're probably going to be able to close out the game from there. Unfortunately for our opponent, they're only able to match us, and we are able to get that game to win. Honestly, it feels incredibly tight anytime you go up against Frieza, especially when they're on just anything that goes wide, right? Meta coolers are hard to deal with because I can never get rid of them. Nothing green does allows me to get rid of them unless our opponent doesn't have them in hand. It's a little bit janky. I don't think it's the strongest thing you can play in Frieza, but it is a strategy that can put a surprising amount of work into green. So the fact that our opponent went tall as opposed to wide here, I think made it easier for us to be able to come back, even though we always had the secret rare in our back pocket. But funny enough, meta cooler is actually decent against the secret rare, because they're still going to have 20Ks on board if they can play out meta coolers from their hand after they get KO'd. So it was suspect, and kind of why I never really leaned on wanting to use the secret rare, but it was an option. Still got there, 2-0, feeling good about the tournament performance so far. So here we go, facing off against Frieza once again. And again, this is the matchup I don't particularly want to see, especially if they're on the Ginu package. So we're going to have to see. Maybe we can slow roll our opponent out of it. We do see our Vegetas though, and we just drew into our secret rare. So we have the tools needed to, at the very least, make a good impression in terms of defending ourselves. We've got destructive strength, so we can go strength into Vegeta. We have our curve. We just need to defend. The big thing here is getting to our late game. We're not going to be using Big Bang attack here. We draw into a super combo. I don't want to draw my super combos early. I would love to draw anything else like a cantrip or something like that, because the super combo is something we're going to need in the late game, not so much early. But that's fine. We're still at 8 life. Now we go down to 7. Opponent did see the Self-Awakener, but we're going to be able to attack into it as opposed to the leader. So hopefully they don't find anything to Self-Awaken too quickly. I'm not going to take damage where I don't have to. If I can combo a 10k to be able to get us there, I'm perfectly happy with that. Here we can go into the destructive strength and then play out thought about playing out the Gohan, and then I opted not to because I just figured it would just be attack fodder for whatever Frieza wants to do. I'd rather just have the 5k combo in hand instead. So take the damage here. We do draw into another super combo. They play the Ginyu Frog, and then they play the Raccoon. So here, the Raccoon into the Ginyu. They saw it all really rough here, and this is where the go wide strategy really starts to hurt. And it's just, we've been expecting this, right? It's something that we saw coming, especially with when they charged the Raccoon early on. I don't love having to deal with this, but hey, we knew it was something we were going to have to handle. So let's do it here. Once we get awakened, we'll only ever have to pitch 5k combo to be able to deal with that. But nevertheless, now we're going into our next turn. Opponent plays a Nyez, takes the life, which I don't necessarily blame him because the extra gas is definitely something that's annoying for us. But here we do awaken, and thankfully we have a 5k in hand to be able to get out of this attack. Here it's going to, it's like between Selku and playing, you know, Vegeta. And here I do think I opt to play the Vegeta instead because it clears board, right? I can attack, force combo out of my opponent's hand, and at least guarantee that something gets off the board, which you could argue I could do with Cell. But like, at least here I can attack. I can guarantee getting rid of maybe a thing or two things. It's a tough call at the end of the day, but we're just trying to make the best of it. Hopefully we can distract our opponent by having an attack into our Vegeta as opposed to dealing with us. Next turn we can secret rare, which at least makes me feel like, okay, as long as we stave off this turn, hopefully we can stabilize. The scary part though is our opponent can always reestablish a board with Raccoon and Ginyu and other stuff. So unfortunately, clearing their board does not get them there, especially when our opponent has done a really good job of drawing cards. They're at 11 cards in hand, and that just means we have so few options in terms of defending ourselves. So we're whittling ourselves down. Not much we can do about that. Opponent still has 4, can play lots of things, plays another Ginyu SR, so they do get the 2 back. And now we're just dealing with a barrage of hits. We might have to deal with another 4 drop. Here we deal with the 40k. And in this position, I just take it because I think we're going to need the super combos late instead. This is the secret rare play. We do draw into a super combo, so that's neat. Here just trying to see if we could force combo power out of our opponent's hand. Nope, they're just going to go for it. I think they just suspect that we're going to go with the secret rare, which we do, and we clear out the board here. So I don't feel great because we are in a position where we might just lose, but we're going to try our best anyways and see if we can mitigate, maybe go in there and close out the game with a Broly that we can play next turn potentially if we don't have to blow up our own energy. We're not feeling great here. They're playing into the double Zarbon into the Ginyu again, so another Ginyu that we're gonna have to deal with, which doesn't feel amazing. But here we can just use our leader ability, and the biggest reason I'm using our leader ability is because we're at 1 life, right? We cannot afford to not go into our next turn. Here they play the Kui, which prevents us from playing double striker, which is a smart move on them, so I just never have an opportunity to close out. But we do draw into a life Han, which is not phenomenal, but at the very least gives us an opportunity to gain a life. If they don't have another double striker, then we draw into an additional card. And here the decision is like, okay, well, I have to force the Kui because the Kui is going to prevent me from being able to close out the game anyways. There's an argument to be made that I shouldn't, but Kui is also a 10k combo. So if we force the block, we're forcing our opponent to lose a 10k combo for what to us is a 5k combo, which makes me feel pretty good about it. So we're going to try and defend here. Did see the double striker, which is very unfortunate for us here. But now it's just a numbers game, right? Like, let's hope we can get there. They supernova, and then they combo their entire hand effectively. But we get so close. And if we just drew into like a gigantic meteor or something, maybe we get there. But unfortunately, they do hit us 125 to 105. So it really just was, you know, one more card. I think there might have been a place where I could have comboed more efficiently, but really, really close regardless. And this is our worst matchup. Our opponent saw the back-to-back, you know, Raccoons into SR Ginyus, which they saw 3 times, allowing them to really go wide, which is not much you can do about that. Matchup's incredibly close. I think Frieza is one of the things I was most concerned about. And that's kind of where it's rough being a Gohan player because you can tech against the Frieza matchup a little bit. You don't have a ton, but it's like you choose between the mirror and you choose between dealing with Frieza. Unfortunately, those 2 matchups are very, very different. Nevertheless, we are X1 and I'm feeling pretty okay. Spoiler alert, the player we just lost to actually ends up winning the whole tournament. This is just a Swiss bracket tournament. The one who goes undefeated until the end will be first place. So congratulations. At least we lost to someone who knew what was going on. But nevertheless, we can still break into a top 8 position. So let's play it on. Our round 4, we're facing off against U7Q. And this is another suspect matchup. It's a deck that's incredibly good at going second, at going and aggroing you, going wide. And if our opponent's smart with the way that they attack, there's a world in which we could be in a world of hurt. So we do have Destructive Strength, which is great. We have the Android 16, which I don't particularly love, but we can combo it away, we can charge it, we can do what we can. So here we've got Destructive Strength. We're just going to go ahead and charge that, and we're going to apply pressure into our opponent. And there's going to be a point in which I think the one way we could have saved this game was potentially not attacking, and I think that's on the next turn. But Nevertheless, here we're just trying to draw cards. We're playing out the early game. I'm feeling okay. Our opponent's not aggroing us too hard. Does have the hit, does attack into us. At the very least, now we have a target we can attack into that doesn't go and take our opponent's life. So here at the very least, we can do that. We do draw into another destructive strength, not having to worry about that. And the thing here is that there's a world in which potentially having not attacked the previous turn, we prevent our opponent from being able to self-awaken. But here we can't get rid of the hit. Our opponent's able to play Self-Awakener again. And now we're going to be dealt with U7 having the ability to go wide with a bunch of cheap bodies, which again is what the Gohan deck hates the most. So here they go Krillin. They do Awaken here, giving them the ability to attack with 25Ks, 20Ks. It just makes their numbers so much better. And of course, this isn't that big of a deal for Broly, which is one of those things that makes me consider Broly if we're ever going into a very serious tournament. Here, unfortunately, we're just being forced to awaken early. And now we're in a battle where we're just going to have to combo away our hand and just try and clean up. Here we do have the 10K combo, thankfully, to help out here. But our opponent doing this hurts a lot, right? Just the one drop TNs that can attack us and chip another card out of our hand, especially as we're a turn away from being able to Secret Rare and restabilize things. Here I use Gigantic Meteor. Not that I love it, but just because it gives us an energy turn where oftentimes we're going to find ourselves not having the capability of being able to have that one energy up. So you might as well use it as opposed to never using it, as opposed to just being a brick in your hand. I don't love seeing Broly here. We just need more combo power. Here I get rid of the hit just to give him just make it a little bit harder for him to be able to get rid of our Selku, even though it doesn't do a great job here. The Whis is able to kind of give it the -5, and then this Goku is so incredibly strong, especially in combination with the Goku leaders that can turn him into a 30k attacker. This is going to be a really rough turn. We're just going to have to hopefully combo off, but I don't love the combo in my hand. Here I make a mistake where I meant to combo off the Gohan. I thought he attacked with the Goku instead, so we comboed away a super combo when we really didn't have to, which I really dislike. But nevertheless, we try to make the best of it. At the end of the day, we do end up having to combo away almost everything out of our hand anyways. So we would have had to combo both super combos, but the sequencing there just definitely didn't help us. And of course, I don't want to use my Gohan ability because I want to wipe the board. So it's just like one of the few ways that we're able to actually get out of this. I'm at 2 health. I don't feel great. Our opponent can go into a double strike connection. They still have 7 cards in hand, which is so tough for us to deal with. Here, because he let the Krillin go off, I decided I did not need to go Secret Rare. And instead, we could actually just clean up the board with the androids instead. So kind of giving us the ability to at least finish the game next turn if need be. Still have the Secret Rare in our back pocket. We still have the 1 energy for Gigantic Meteor. And those are kind of things I'm balancing. Here we do end up taking the hit from the leader because I just figure we just need to be able to hopefully bait them into a big hit. You know, I was kind of saying like, oh, maybe they go into one big attack instead. And this is what they go for here. So we got the Gigantic Meteor. We are able to save off this for attack, but just, 25 combo smart, right? They went 25. They knew we had the one up for the Gigantic Meteor. And now we just pray that hopefully we're able to defend this next hit. But they take the life, they get the cards in hand, and they just have all the 10k combos, unfortunately. And that's a little bit too big for us. It's close. It's not, unwinnable, but unfortunately it's just shy of us being able to get there. And that's where I was like, maybe the smart play was to just not attack into our opponent on turn 2, not give them the self-awaken. So like this, we have a bit of a safer next turn. So one thing to consider against U7, maybe you just don't attack into them. You don't get the card, but at the very least, it gives you one more turn where they're not awakened, and that's a big deal for you. Obviously, if they end up seeing the Master Roshi early, you can't really do anything about that, and you just lose out on that game plan at all. But here, I think it would have made the difference to at least give us a better chance at being in this game. We're now 2-2. I don't feel fantastic, but 2-2 is still in a position where we could potentially top 16. Nothing fantastic in terms of prizing for top 16, but nevertheless, I think it's worth pushing through and just seeing how much we can learn, how much we can benefit. And at the end of the day, I want to know, how do I feel about Gohan in a tournament setting? So we're just going to run it through, and maybe we can turn around our record and see how far we can push it. All right, so we're going into round 5. We're 2-2, and we're facing Broly. And you know what? Hey, the mirror match is what I'm tech for. I'm A-okay with this. Let's see how much work we can put in this matchup. We have the Destructive Strength into the Turtles if we need be, but otherwise we have Selku. The secret rare here is just in case if our opponent commits too hard to having a bunch of 5-drops on board. And now we drew into the Broly. So I'm feeling pretty good in terms of the things that we saw. Here we did charge the Trunks because I knew I was going to want to go into this Goku next turn. And now we have our perfect curve of Destructive Strength. If we want a Vegeta, we can Turtles instead, we can Goku. But because we're the first turn player, we are going from 3 to 5. So the likelihood is we're going to probably go Destructive Strength into Goku, just because our awakened ability is really strong into Broly. So we want to maximize using it as much as possible. We see another 8-drop Broly. This is fantastic. The androids might have their uses if we're able to get our opponent from 5 to 3, because obviously with the Awaken, it puts them down to 2. And here we Destructive Strength into another Broly, but that's fine. We have 2 in hand. If we need the third Broly, something went incredibly wrong in this game. So our opponent did curve out, though. They did see Destructive Strength into their own Vegeta, so they've got a good thing going on here. Here we're going to swing, apply some pressure, and then in terms of lining up what our next plays are, I just figure, you know what, if our opponent aggroes into us, we can just sell Ku. It puts us in a good position in the future, depending on what our opponent decides to do. So we're just going to take this hit. If our opponent awakens us, we feel really good. If they don't awaken us, we feel okay. And now we get an opposing Cell Ku, and I feel great, especially since our opponent hit us. Yes, we get the usage of our leader ability now over and over into Broly, which is a big deal. Here, the opponent tries to force a card out of our hand, but that's fine. I'll awaken. I'll use my self-destruction ability for energy with combination of the Cell Ku, makes it free, and then we just combo 5k and none's the wiser. Also puts us in a really good position to secret rare the opponent. Getting rid of their opposing Cell Ku as they go to their awaken turn is a big deal. So here now it's like it's Broly or bust. If our opponent does not see Broly, we have a commanding board presence, which feels excellent. Reason I'm not attacking with the Goku afterwards is because I don't want to put our opponent in a position where they can Broly and get rid of both. I want to be able to maintain one, so we're going to maintain the Goku here. If he opts to get rid of the secret rare, that's okay. As long as I get to keep using my leader ability to be able to pop energy, I feel in a much better place. So there's an argument to be made. I actually think that the better play may have been the Goku, but of course, do you want to face a 50k attacker? I don't know. Here we're just going to take this hit because we can, and then afterwards I believe we just protect ourselves. You know, at 3 life I feel a-okay in being able to survive another turn. It's not guaranteed, but it puts us in a position to do so. Once we get to 2 life, it's a little too suspect, especially with the fact our opponent has 13 cards in hand. We need to start getting cards out of their hand, and we don't want to be in a position where they just entered 17, 18, you know, shotgun their whole hand, and we're not able to defend ourselves. So here we're going to attack into our opponent and just kind of chip away where we can. Here in these positions, I like, you know, we're not going to close out the game. So I like attacking with Broly once, forcing additional cards out of our opponent's hand if they want to, and then we're just going to leave it up because, okay, never mind. I guess we're just going to attack. Putting them to 1 can be cute. There's an argument to be made that you hold Broly just so that you put them in a position where, again, if they Broly you still have, you know, an option instead of them having to blow up your Cell Ku and then attack. Here they just decide to blow up the Broly. Again, now they're just going to go for game. I know I need to defend this hit. If I defend this hit, I see another turn. So here, as the Broly opponent, I would have comboed more. Because if you combo more into me, I'm forced to take it. Now I got to defend a Broly. You had way bigger hand than I did. But now I feel okay. I can take both of these hits. You're at 1. I can push to close out the game next turn. We charge. And then I know I have the Gigantic Meteor available to attack here. And we're just going to try and push out as much damage as possible. I like playing the Gigantic Meteor here because then it also allows us to play to blow up our own energy at no cost while still being able to Broly. And our opponent doesn't know we have another Broly, right? Give your opponent as little information as possible. So here we're Gigantic Meteor because they don't know. Maybe we don't have a Broly. And now we do have a Broly. And hopefully we can close out the game here with these subsequent attacks. 45 is a nice number because it's super combo plus thing. So we're just going to attack with our 45s, try to force out as much as we can. Here, we're just going to dump it all and see where we go. The 5k combo is kind of a trade-off. I just kind of figure it's the same thing and we are able to get there. A little bit suspect. Obviously, our opponent could defend, but I just kind of put them on not having it. Their mirror match is what we were ready for. At the end of the day, there is an RNG factor. Do you not whiff on ramp? Do you find your Brolys? Thankfully, we were able to do both of those things. Our opponent saw 2 Brolys. We saw 2 or 3. I kind of forget. We just had the game, but you know what? Nevertheless, we are currently 3-2. I'm feeling okay. We're in a positive record now. Hopefully we can push for a 4-2, maybe break into top 16. Our final match of the tournament, round 6, and we're fighting against Beerus, which I like the matchup personally. I think we can put Beerus in a position where, you know, if they don't aggro us too fast, we can actually stabilize pretty well. But again, they're hitting us with crit hits, and Green doesn't like being hit with crit. We don't get that many cards. We don't get the opportunity to play a bunch of cantrips and keep them on board because Beerus oftentimes removes them off of our board. Nevertheless, we're going to play our 1-drop here, and we're going to see if we can at least use it defensively at some point, but there's no guarantee there at all. Oftentimes, we're just going to be stuck taking the crit hits, but we have our curve. We have our Destructive Strengths, we've got our Vegeta, and then we got our Cell. So I feel pretty good about defending. Botamo is very annoying here, but thankfully we have Vegeta that's going to be able to deal with Botamo. Otherwise, we'd be staring at it for a long time. The best thing that Botamo does for us here is at least provides us an attacker that we don't have to attack into Beerus, and we can start netting cards without ever giving them cards, which is huge for us, right? Yes, crit leaders are card neutral when they swing into us and we don't get the life, but if they provide us ways to attack that don't include attacking the leader, now we're not giving them the life, and they're not gaining those cards immediately. Nevertheless, here they do self-awaken here with the Goku. Still a bit of ways though, only at 6 life. But here ourselves, we can awaken and defend ourselves. So this is a bit of a spooky board, I won't lie. But we can go into the Vegeta next turn and clean up the board a little bit. Not a ton, but enough to at least not have to deal with the Botamo, which I like. And we're going to just give it a cheeky 10 above for super combo, for, you know, extra card, whatever. Just clean up the board. And then here Vegeta will do the rest of the work in clearing off that Botamo. Oftentimes, I know I've got too many Broly's in the deck. I've got 4. So we can get rid of some Broly's early game, especially since I don't think Broly's going to be the reason we win this game. They find another Goku, but thankfully they're not awakened yet. The longer we can keep them off awakened, the longer we're in a position where we can card starve them and hopefully close out the game. It's very suspect as a whole different game if they're able to awaken, but the longer we can keep them off awaken, the safer we feel, especially since we go into the Selku here. Now we're in a position where we can use our leader ability liberally. So if our opponent attacks us, we're never in a position now to have to sacrifice cards from our hand to at least defend one attack, which makes a big deal. Here they Super Kamehameha to save the Goku. That's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Obviously, our Selku here is huge in terms of helping us defend, so we're not going to attack with it either. Doesn't matter. Of course, they just had the Beerus, so I guess we should have attacked with it, but it is what it is. However, leader's still unawakened. We're at low cards in hand, but we have cards to be able to deal with our opponent's board, and we're in a spooky position. 2 cards to 2 cards, but this is where being and having the awakened control is such a big deal, because we're in a better position to be able to control the board. We're in a better position to be able to draw out of this current situation that we're in. So I'm feeling okay. Here, you know what? Not going to bother combo, not going to bother popping energy. We're going to Broly, and we're going to Broly to board control. We don't have to attack here. And look, I do not want this Beerus to draw cards. I do not want this Beerus to awaken. I do not want this Beerus to put themselves in a position to stabilize on card advantage against us, especially when we're at 3 and they could double strike us. Here I know at the very least, if they play a double striker, we're probably still going to live. We got super combo, we got leader ability, we're feeling okay. Here, they're dishing out a bunch of attackers. They're going wide. It's a smart strategy, but unfortunately, this is where Beerus can hurt sometimes. If you are unable to awaken, you're in a position where you're never comboing into attacks, and I can go 1 for 1 here. I do not mind. I can slowly build out my board while still controlling you and feeling okay. So here we have the androids. I don't particularly care. We can just outright play the Life Han and allow us to feel really much safer. Being at 4 versus 3 means that we're never in a position of taking a leader hit and then having to face a double striker. Obviously, would I like more combo power in my hand? Yeah, but we take what we can get. We'll go ahead and play the 1 drop here, hoping that our opponent can't get rid of it. Looks like they can get rid of it. Not much we could do about that, unfortunately, especially since we're dealing with crit hits twice. But here we're at a position now where we have a Broly on board. I don't see the need of playing another Broly, so we can use our leader ability a little bit more liberally here. And now we're in a position where we have to start thinking about punching into our opponent, closing out the game, drawing cards. So here we're just going to clear the Gohan just in case. We're at 4 life. We're not in a position to lose anything. And we have the androids to be able to close out. So depending on how hard our opponent defends this, we can go into it. Otherwise, we can go into a Selku to just give ourselves the better defense. There's quite a few options in terms of what we can do. Here, it just depends on how much the opponent takes. They do take it. So you know what? Hey, we can go for it. We're not in lethal range for next turn because we're at 4 life. So if our opponent is able to defend this, that's fine. And you know what? They actually are able to defend it, but they're 1 card in hand. We can use our leader ability. We might not draw depending on if they crit or whatever, but nevertheless, I still feel okay. We can take this hit. We can not take this hit. By not taking this hit, we essentially guarantee that we're, going to live to see another day. And our opponent's in a position where they could board control us. They can attack into us. And I think at this point, our opponent's just kind of giving us a game. Just for the sake of doing some neat things. They got Kamehameha. They get rid of the double striker. Still gonna have to face a Broly though. Still gonna have to face a Gohan. Still gonna have to face a leader swing. That's 35k. So unfortunately, that's gonna be too much pressure for our opponent here. Just guarantee the in here with the 40k swing, and now we're swinging 45 with the gigantic meteor just to close it out. And that will be sufficient to get there. So super tight game, right? We both in the position of having very low cards in hand, but thankfully we were able to awaken. Our opponent didn't awaken. And due to that fact alone, we were able to outcard advantage them and push for a late game finish. With that run in mind, that puts us at a 4-2 finish, and unfortunately not breaking into top 16, but we do get 20th place. I don't necessarily mind a 4-2 finish, kind of exactly where I expected Gohan to land in terms of position. And if anything, this really cemented my feelings about the fact that, like, I love Gohan. He's my favorite character. If I had to choose a leader just for fun, I think Gohan is really there. But if you want to play green, the fact that the go wide strategies, which are our 2 losses, right? Go wide Frieza, go wide U7. Both of those strategies were the ones that were able to prey on us. We were able to beat the mirror. We were able to beat the other strategies. But unfortunately, it deals so poorly with that strategy that I think if you want to play green, you should play Broly if you're going to a serious tournament, because that extra 5k means that the go wide has to work that much harder. And then you can still just board wipe them the same way that Gohan can. So do you lose some inches in the mirror? Yeah, but like we saw today, in terms of the mirror match, the biggest deciding factor is not missing your ramp and seeing your boss monsters. If you're able to do both of those things, it doesn't really matter all that much. The leader can help. Gohan attacking into Broly as a 35k and then defending as a 35k helps. But at the end of the day, I do think the overall board control is what matters the most. So it becomes almost kind of an RNG thing at the end of the day. I think whoever's able to roll harder is able to get there. I pulled away from this tournament what I wanted to. I love Gohan. I think he's an extremely strong leader. But I think in the face of a meta that's trying to fight against green, Broly lends itself to having better tooling to deal with that. And I'm not saying I'm going to take Broly to a tournament. I'm exploring tons of things. I'm still exploring blue a little bit. I'm exploring red. I love what Starter Coup is doing in the meta right now. U7 might be able to get there. And if I just want a good matchup spread, maybe I just take Frieza. But in terms of discovering what I want to do with green, I think this tournament was fantastic in terms of learning how bad the matchup can be. And it's close still, right? Like I still think we were in those games, but nevertheless, I think it's a lot of work. Unfortunately, I'm not skill diffing my opponents because Gohan constantly is a scripted match. You know what my turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is looking like. And I'm relying on card quality to get me a win, as opposed to so much skill diffing my opponents, at least when we're talking against facing go wide aggro. It's just, do they see enough aggro and do I see enough defense? I probably lean towards a strategy that allows me to make more meaningful decisions in the early game to mitigate what my opponent is doing. Nevertheless, I had a ton of fun this tournament and I'm looking forward to playing in more. If you guys have recommendations for a deck you would like to see me run in a tournament, I'm thinking about running Trunks if I'm being totally honest. But nevertheless, I would love to hear what you guys would like to see. Let me know in the comments below and I'll catch you on the next one.